60 days from decision to departure. My partner Spencer and I decided that we were going to leave the USA for good and move to Albania in early 2024. We haven't looked back. So, if this is something you've ever dreamt of, we can help you make it a reality. I know from a very young age, I grew up on a farm in Missouri. I dreamt of London, of Paris, of exploring the world. And for a number of reasons, when I was younger, I didn't do that. I went to college. I came back home. I helped my parents run the farm. I moved into the business world and the corporate world eventually, and I got involved in e-commerce and digital marketing. I spent the last 5 years of my corporate career at a global agency helping Fortune 500 companies with their websites and the back end systems that it took to run their websites. By many standards, Spencer and I both had achieved the American dream. In 2019, we bought our first home, a English Cotswold style stone cottage in the heart of Kansas City in one of the coolest, most historic neighborhoods there. We very thoughtfully went in and we restored it. We built the perfect home for us. And at the time we bought it, I at least couldn't imagine ever selling it. It had honestly been another dream of mine when I was young. I remember driving past this row of stone houses when we would go to the Country Club Plaza for Christmas. And I was like, it would be so cool if I could live here someday. So it was wildly rewarding to be able to do that. But after a few years, we'd achieved our goals. We had the house, we had the cool corporate jobs, and everything that went with that. The problem that we faced was life didn't seem to be very fulfilling at that point. We were making money, we were maintaining our lifestyle, we were able to travel occasionally, but everything was very stressful. There wasn't time to breathe. I would wake up and start my corporate job. I was very lucky that I had been able to work remotely since 2019. And I worked for a global firm, and we had to figure out how to do things on the internet, especially with COVID and everything that was going on in the world. It really felt unsustainable at a point. We were doing what most Americans do. We were working to pay for things. We were working to renovate the house. We were working to pay the insurance bills, to put some money in savings, to put new trees in the front yard. And we just kept asking ourselves, like, is this really what life has to offer? I'll give you a little bit of backstory about who I am and how that led to today. In 2014, my dad got really sick. He had cancer. That turned into a surgery that went poorly, and he spent the next few years of his life really kind of battling for life. He had a constant infection from an issue that happened during surgery, and ultimately he passed away in 2016. After my dad passed away, my mom and I had a very, very long conversation about the farm because we'd worked for the last several years, the last two specifically, to make sure that it was operational, that things kept going, because that's what my dad wanted. That's what his parents had told him, his life was, and he had fulfilled that obligation. Something that will stick with me for as long as I live is remembering my dad talk about this dream trip to Australia that he wanted to take. He wanted to take a month vacation and go explore Australia. Well, my dad never got to do that. My dad worked until he passed away. He worked to keep the farm running, to keep the legacy going. And honestly, I still to this day find it heartbreaking that he never got to follow that dream. And I didn't want to be in the same boat. I think my mom knew that. My mom grew up in a town of 4,000 people, but in town nonetheless. So farm life was new to her. She embraced farm life because her and my dad were one of the strongest couples I'd ever met. They'd gone through a lot of challenges when they were younger, but by the time they found each other in the early 80s, they became inseparable. And my mom did anything to support my dad and support the family, and I will be forever grateful for both of them. So, my dad passed away in 2016, and my mom and I had this conversation, and she said, "Sam, I don't really want to live here. I don't want to keep this up. I can't do it anymore. It was never my dream. It was your dad's. It was your family's. What do you want to do?" And I- I'll admit, it didn't take me long to say, let's sell it. I I still occasionally think back to this and wonder if that was a mistake, but I have to tell you, since we moved to Albania, that never crosses my mind. I am so, so grateful that I kind of broke this legacy, if you will. I know there were a lot of people at the time that looked down on that decision, distant family members and things. They were like, how could you? But that life wasn't for my mom. And I knew ultimately it wasn't for me. I didn't want to work until I died maintaining something that didn't mean the same thing to me. I will forever be grateful for growing up on a farm, for learning those rural Missouri values. I think I carry them with me every day. They've given me a determination that I can do anything. And I guess that's what I'm here today to do, to share a little bit of this story that honestly I don't talk about. I'm not one that reflects on the past. And this video is very challenging for me because I don't do that. I look forward. I look at how to grow, how to evolve my life, how to create stability and security for Spencer, my partner, and I. So this look back and this journey to tell you how we got here, it's very sincere, and I hope that comes through in this video. We decide to sell the farm, and we do that. My dad passed away in July, and by October, it was all gone. Over 100 years worth of stuff, worth of legacy. It was sold. My mom passed away in 2018, pretty suddenly. We found out in August that she had cancer, and by November, she was no longer with us. That broke my heart. That broke Spencer's heart. It was one of the hardest things I've ever gone through. She was perfectly healthy until she was not. I was an executive at a global agency that builds websites and does marketing related things for Fortune 500 companies. By most standards, we achieved the American dream. We were living the life. We were traveling when we wanted to. But at some point, we realized that it felt really unsustainable. We were making more money than honestly I ever imagined I could when I was a child. And we were still trying to keep up. We were trying to make sure that we were saving enough money, that we were putting enough money into our house. We were paying for all of these renovation costs and things out of pocket. All of this did pay off for us when we ultimately decided to sell our house. In early 2023, we really started discussing this intentionally. We were like, is this really what we want? What else can we do? We want to see the world. So we planned a long scouting trip throughout Europe. And we did that over the winter of 2023, 2024. We got home in early 2024, and we got home with mixed feelings. We knew that we wanted something more. We knew that Kansas City isn't where we wanted to be the rest of our lives, but we hadn't found that perfect home on our journey. So we were still exploring, we were thinking, we were processing what we wanted to do. And then in May of that year, I found a vintage Mercedes that I really wanted in Florida. I had some other things going on, like work wise, that I needed to do. So it was hard for me to get away. So Spencer bought a one-way ticket to Florida and he picked up this car for me. He was driving home with it, and one of his friends happened to be in the hospital, and he sent me a text message, hey, would you please go pick up a piece of cheesecake? Of course I was happy to. I hopped in the car. I went to the Cheesecake Factory. Before I finished ordering, I heard gunshots. There was a car coming down the street, a shooting at the shops. There was a flood of people running into the restaurant. I was at the front counter. I got knocked over. I'm a pretty big guy, and I got literally trampled by people running from a shooter in Kansas City. We were all laying on the floor in the kitchen at that point as the restaurant employees are trying to like block the door to prevent more people. They didn't know if there were shooters on the ground or if they were driving or what was happening. So we're in this lockdown state. And I vividly remember sending Spencer a text message. I'm in a shooting. I love you. I hope this isn't it. And luckily it wasn't. Nobody in the Cheesecake Factory got injured. There were some kids out playing with guns. They blew out several windows of some shops and some cars. We were locked down for 15, 20 minutes before the police cleared the scene and we were able to leave. And I picked my piece of to-go cheesecake up and went to the hospital and delivered it, kind of in shock still. And I kept processing this. I kept thinking, like, what's going on in society here? This is not okay. I called a very close relative of mine, and they said, well, that's what happens when you live in the city. I'm glad you're okay. And really, for me, that was the point when I was like, it's time to go. This is not okay. This is not how the rest of the world works. Spencer got home and we had a conversation with each other and we were like, let's sell our house. It's time to move. We didn't know what we were going to do, but we knew that we had to make a change. So we called our realtor, and in less than 2 weeks, our house was listed. And we were lucky enough to get an above ask offer on the first day that the house was on the market. With that offer came a 30-day close date. They wanted the house in 30 days. I still had the family mementos and things from the family farm in our basement. I was the one who inherited all of that stuff. And we had to get rid of it all. So we started calling estate sale companies and nobody had time. It was right in the middle of summer. It was prime estate sale season. People were moving. So we ended up doing that ourselves. We said, well, it can't be that hard. We've been to several estate sales. Let's do it. And we did, and we did it successfully. We made over $10,000 in a weekend. Plus, we sold our cars. We sold everything. We left the US with 2 checked bags each and our cat. So during that process, that time we had to figure out where we were going to go. We knew ultimately that we could become slow travelers. We could figure that out for a while. But we also knew that Albania allowed us a 12-month visa-free stay. It had been on our radar. We'd never been here before, though. And we just decided, well, let's go to Albania and we'll figure things out from there. Spencer had left his job at that point. He could have maintained it remotely, but he really didn't want to. He was looking for more meaning, I think, in life, something different. I did maintain my corporate job. We knew that we would be okay with that. I worked for a company that did allow remote work. So we had to be strategic about how we did things. We had to maintain a presence in the US. So we moved our residency to Florida. And we did all of this in that 60-day window. We got through the estate sale. We closed on our house. It was time to go. We had done all of the paperwork for our cat. And we'd bought one-way flights to Albania. And we got on them. We arrived here. We had 2 days booked in the Marriott in Tirana. We booked the Marriott specifically because we'd heard that the viewpoints on pets were different in Albania than maybe the Western world. And we weren't sure what to expect or how tolerated animals were. We got here. We got quickly settled in the hotel. And we said, okay, what's next? We had done a little bit of research and we knew that there were 3 bigger coastal cities that we were interested in. We really thought that Durrës would probably be the city that we would like to stay in because it was close to the capital. but it was also on the sea. Living on the sea had been a dream of Spencer and mine for years at that point. In the US, it didn't seem sustainable. Like, how could we ever afford that? But in Albania, it was very achievable. So we set out for Durrës and we'd booked a week-long stay in sort of the city center. We got there and we were really enjoying exploring, but it didn't feel quite right to us. The city itself was laid out geographically in a way that we appreciated, but it didn't feel very walkable. Durrës is the big port city in Albania, so it is more industrial than some of the other places. We got settled in Saranda. It really started to feel real for us. We were maintaining our life in a new way. We didn't have all of the housing obligations and the work that went into that. So we were much more free. We started to slow down. We started to appreciate life more. We started to achieve some of the things that we dreamed about. We got to go to the beach every morning before I started my workday. Albania unlocked that for us. Albania let us feel a slower pace of life for the first time in memory. We've been here over a year now, and I can still very much say that's true. I left my corporate job in February. I still do tech consulting. We've started making a life for ourselves. We've started helping other people along their journeys. We've started building a business. And we've done that because we wanted to escape the American sort of rat race culture, work is life. I'd achieved that dream of being a corporate executive, of making the big bucks, and it was not fulfilling. It was very much a bridge to help us get here. It helped unlock a lot of things for us, and it has helped me to become an entrepreneur again. We have started exploring different business ventures. We spend time enjoying nature. We spend time with friends. We have more friends here than we had in Kansas City. There's a community here. I feel like we have a family here that we did not in Kansas City. Spencer's family was in Colorado and New Mexico. As I mentioned, my parents had both passed away. When we got here and we got settled, people started pulling us into their circles. They're like, come with us to this event. Let's go on a road trip. Let's do all of these things. And I can say a little more than a year later, we have a bigger family here, one that we found, than we ever did in the US. I have people reaching out to me every day. Let's get together for dinner. Let's go adventure. Let's do these things. How are you? How are you feeling? It's been really, really cool. Life here for me is not money based. I'm not chasing a huge paycheck. Yes, we have to make a living. We're launching a honey and olive oil export business because the honey and olive oil in Albania is out of this world. It's better than anything you've ever tried if you've not been to Albania. It's allowed me to be creative again. I went from corporate problem solver, waking up at 6 a.m., at my computer by 7 a.m., working until 5 or 6 p.m., making money for the enterprise, that I didn't have time to be creative. I didn't have time to dream. In Albania, I'll be the first to admit I make less money than I used to, but I'm able to dream again. I'm able to really explore and unlock some of the things that I'd thought about off and on for years, but I hadn't had the time or the energy or the focus to do. It's really transformed my life moving here. Yes, there are challenges. One of the biggest ones for most people is, how are you going to sustain yourself? If you're retired, this is an awesome place to be. You have a steady income. Your income's going to go a lot further than it will in other places. If you're not retired, though, you need to think carefully about this, because this is not a country that you can come and make an American or a Western sort of salary very easily. I mean, you can't at all. The minimum wage in Albania is 400 euros a month. I mean, people do make a little more than that, but I was making five figures every month. So that's an adjustment. That's something you've got to plan for. If you can bring your income, if you can bring a job, if you can create a job, if you can create a business, this is an incredible place to be. And I will tell you that being here over a year now, I've been able to create things that I'd only dreamed about before. I took the experience of our estate sale and I created an ebook about that to help other people do the same thing. A year or two ago, I thought that was a joke. Even though I worked in digital commerce, I thought, who makes money making an ebook? Well, I can tell you, I've made a little bit of money from that so far, and it's growing. It's helping other people. People are very appreciative. The people who have purchased it or have watched our YouTube videos about this, they found it sincerely helpful. And that has really made me proud. I created something and it's provided value to other people. I think another thing that I would tell you are sharing our journey, starting this video series about moving to Albania. It's not been about making money. It was about helping tell other people that if you have this dream, you can do it too. I spoke with a couple yesterday that honestly they put me in tears after the call that I had with them because they were so grateful that we had shared our story with them and they're going to be in Albania in a few weeks. If you have the dream, you can do it. If you want to change your life, you can do it. Albania has taught me that. The people here are so kind. The people here are so welcoming. The people here are curious about you. The division that we experience in America, the societal unrest, the political back and forth, you're so far removed from it here. I remember spending our evenings watching the news, seeing what was happening in the country. And here you don't really do that. You don't have to do that. You spend your evenings with friends having dinner. You spend your mornings at the beach. You have time to create. You have time to build a business that you've dreamed about. You have time to help other people. You have time to live your life. Everything is a little slower here. It's a little calmer. And after a couple of months of being here, you really, really start to feel that things slow down in the best way possible. If you've ever dreamt about moving abroad, leaving the USA, escaping your crazy corporate life, you can do it. I did it. Spencer and I did it. It is terrifying until it is not. At some point, it goes from like the scariest thing you could imagine to the biggest adventure. And if you embrace that adventure, it's going to pay off for you. I still wake up some days and I'm like, how are we going to make life work? What about my corporate job? What did I do? But those feelings are fleeting. Like it is way more rare than it was 12 months ago. I see opportunity around every corner instead of doom. I've stopped worrying about like what's going to go wrong next. And I've started thinking about what opportunity is coming next. Something that happened very recently. We were asked to do an Ask Me Anything on Reddit about our journey to Albania. We did that and it received 500,000 views in a couple of days. We received hundreds of questions. And that led to some press started reaching out to us. We did an interview with Newsweek last week. That article should be coming out in the next week or two. We've really gotten to a point where we're sharing our journey, we're sharing our story, we're encouraging other people to take that leap, to follow their dreams. And this is more rewarding than anything I've ever done professionally in my life. To leave your hometown, to leave your corporate job, to leave that security, you can. You need to make a plan for money. if you're coming to a place like Albania. I think most people get stuck on this journey with how will I survive? Where can I go? And can I make a living there? Well, the benefit of Albania to us, at least, is one, the cost of living is much lower than the Western world. And there's opportunity around every corner. I really hope that my story today has encouraged you. It's the best thing that I've ever done for my mental health, my physical health. I've lost so much weight. I feel better. My mental health is better. Follow your dreams. It is terrifying sometimes, but it is also so rewarding. If you really want to make a change in your world, you can do it. It's really cool to experience that, to see all of the people who are currently like, okay, I'm done with my life in the USA right now. I'm ready for a new adventure. I'm ready for a new challenge. To contrast that with the stories like Natasha's that we shared over the weekend, the people who have done this before us, to see how grateful they are of the transformation they made in their lives. You're going to find a community wherever you go in the world of people who have done it, and they will help you. I will forever be grateful for the expats that we met initially when we met, even before we landed in Albania, that answered our questions, that that opened up their hearts to us, if you will, and said, you can do this. If you want to do this. And that's what Spencer and I are really trying to do. We're trying to openly and vulnerably share our story so it connects and resonates with you. And you feel that sense of security that you can make this happen, because you can. You don't have to have it all figured out. I will close this video in saying that it's possible. Your dreams are possible. So please follow along. Please subscribe. Please let us know what your holdback is, what you need help with, and we will do our best to connect you to the resources, share our ideas, share our own perspectives on what's happened with our lives, to make sure that you have the tools and resources you need to make this journey a reality. Because we left America in 60 days, and you can do the same thing. We're going to keep sharing these expat stories. We're going to bring you new people, new perspectives. When Spencer gets back from his meditation retreat, he's going to share his version of our 60-day move timeline, our journey to get here. Thank you. Talk to you soon. Bye.